So here's what we're going to do today. I'll introduce you to a coaching model that helps people reconnect with their passion and purpose. We're going to walk through a couple of simple but powerful activities. One simple but powerful activity to identify a meaningful aspiration. And then I'm going to share a couple of ways you can continue exploring if you're interested. So let's go ahead and just jump right in. And just to start us off, I want to share a poem that I think captures what it feels like when we are out of sync with ourselves. So if it feels safe and comfortable to you, I invite you to just close your eyes and listen, but do whatever works for you. And this is called Sweet Darkness by David White. When your eyes are tired, the world is tired also. When your vision has gone, no part of the world can find you. Time to go into the dark, where the night has eyes to recognize its own. There you can be sure you are not beyond love. The dark will be your home tonight. The night will give you a horizon further than you can see. And you must learn one thing. The world was made to be free in. Give up all the other worlds except the one to which you belong. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. Okay, if your eyes are shut, you can open them now. But I love this poem because it reminds us that sometimes the most important step is to actually pause and turn inward, to reconnect to that person who we really are. So I'm going to talk about something that affects so many people, right? So Gallup's 2025 State of the Gallup Workplace Report just came out, and global engagement is down. So only 21% of employees feel truly engaged in their work. And why does that matter? Well, people check out when they're feeling disconnected from meaning, purpose, or opportunities to grow. So just curious, either in the chat or a thumbs up if you're on camera, if this sounds like you, or have you ever felt stuck or off track, or do you know someone who has? What's been your experience? Reactions, nods, or something in the chat, whatever way you want to communicate, that's fine. All right, I'm seeing a heart from Jason. Thank you. Some thumbs up from Ron. Okay. Christy, you've half felt that way, and you know many people feeling it. Yeah, okay, absolutely. Okay, yeah, so right, we know this is out there. We either have been, are, or know these people, right? So imagine this instead, right? Waking up excited about the day ahead, feeling aligned with our goals, navigating change with confidence and clarity. And that's, what coaching can help unlock. And how do we get there? Well, as if we are coaches, right, we start with questions. And questions help us engage our brains in new ways. They interrupt old patterns. They can spark insights, right, and open up possibilities for us. So, bottom line is that questions can move us from that autopilot mode to intentional self-leadership. So, I'd like to introduce you to a model that I use, the inner compass coaching model. I use it with my clients. And it's really built around two core phases. It's reconnecting with your authentic self, then realigning your thinking, habits, and actions to support your aspirations. So I'm going to start with reconnect. And you may recognize this shape, right? So this is an adapted version of the Japanese Ikigai model. And Ikigai means reason for being. In this version, I've actually adapted from Stephen Covey's The Eighth Habit. So using this as a framework in the coaching, we explore four essential questions. First one is, what are my strengths? And I use the Clifton Strengths Assessment to explore this dimension, right? There are other assessments that could probably get at the same thing, but Clifton Strengths is my go-to for this one. Then we explore the question of, what do I love, right? So use an activity called My Favorites, where we discover together patterns in our passions. What are those things that we always sort of go back to? And what does that say about us? And then we explore what is my gift. So we do this by recounting some powerful stories, stories from our past when we really felt like in that state of flow, right? And in those stories, we can uncover unique patterns of success. And then finally, we look at, oh, what is my purpose? And by exploring our big want, that says something about how we might be being called. So at the center, where all these four quadrants come together, right, is what Covey calls finding your voice. And essentially, this explores the question, who am I at my very core? And just a quote from Covey, he says, when you engage in work that taps your talent and fuels your passion, that rises out of a great need in the world, and that you feel drawn by conscience to meet, therein lies your voice, your calling, or your soul's code. So again, first part, really reconnecting with who we are. Then we go to realign. And for realign, once you've reconnected with yourself, how do you align your goals and habits to kind of reflect that identity? So there's really three essential questions that are explored in this phase. First one is, what is a current aspiration of mine? This is something that might be meaningful and purpose driven, a goal that might energize you, right? And then from that question, how will I think differently? So again, I use a VQ profile assessment, which you'll have an opportunity to experiment with as a thank you for being here. But I use this VQ profile assessment to uncover our best and not so best ways of thinking. And then the third step is, well, then how do I build better habits now so that I can achieve that aspiration? How do I kind of shift into those best ways of thinking more often? So that third question is, again, exploring how do I build better habits? And when you're able to connect your aspiration to personal value, it becomes really powerful fuel for action. So I'm going to bring this to life, or at least part of this to life, the reconnect part for now, with a fictional story. So I want you to imagine a person named Forrest Green. And Forrest has done all the inner work of reconnecting with who he is, right? And he recognizes he has a gift for influencing change. And he's most impactful doing this when he taps into his Gallup strengths. And some of his top five are communication, woo, futuristic, and significance. And ever since he was a boy, he's always felt at home in nature. This is what he's passionate about. He's passionate about preserving its beauty. So he's starting to see the effects of climate change, and that has stirred something deep in him. So his conscience is telling him to do something to protect the planet for future generations. So from that sense of purpose, an aspiration begins to take shape. And we'll come back to Forrest in a moment, but first it's going to be your turn to reflect. And I just add here too that while that nice little fictional summary sounded very neat and clean, the process isn't that neat and clean, right? This does take a lot of kind of soul searching, a lot of work, right, to kind of get to that sense.
Well, you have
Okay,
there's a quick
question.
question there
Yeah,
about the gift.
the gift. Yeah, the gift is really the what is it that you bring to people? That's your unique gift to people that you like to share. And usually the gift is something that in giving it, right, you're also kind of receiving something in return. Like it just gives you so much joy to give something, right, that you get something back. For some people that might just be like the gift of compassion as an example, so they're able to come into a room and maybe see somebody that's not having such a great day, and they're able to um, really connect with that person in a meaningful way. So that's an example. Your gift, of course, is gonna vary. Yeah, thank you for that, Jason. Yeah, from the Ikigai model, it's something the world needs, right? What is it, my gift to the world? Is it a value proposition? In a sense, yes. I think if you start merging all these together, you get a sense of what your value proposition is, as a person and what you're going to bring to the world and how you go about doing that. And then Candace, I see you have your hand raised.
Would you prefer that we write in the chat or
No, no,
is
yeah,
there
no, this is
something?
fine. This is perfect.
Okay, so I've heard that sometimes the gift could be something that you're unaware of, but people keep on telling you that, oh my gosh, how do you do this? Or this is so amazing. And then at that point, you can, if you look at it, you can like, oh my gosh, I do have this gift. And now it's a matter of, I think, whether you want to, whether you love this, whether you're passionate about it and want to continue doing it, or you're like, actually, I don't really like this at all. I'm just good at it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's where the other quadrants come in, right? So you might have a gift of doing something, but you know what? It's not something you like doing. So, so the sweet spot is where all four of those come together. And I loved what you said because I think sometimes we're not aware of what our gift is, like our strengths. Sometimes they're so close to us. It's just who we are, so it doesn't seem special. And sometimes it takes somebody to kind of hold the mirror up to us to kind of see the gift that we're bringing. Thank you for the question. Did I miss any questions in the chat? All right. So let's move on. Your turn to kind of participate. So imagine you've gone through this whole reconnect stuff, right? So now we're going to talk about aspiration a little bit. So April's going to post a worksheet in the chat that you can use for this activity. But before we start on the worksheet, I'd invite you to just think of an aspiration. So this is something that's important to you, something you've been maybe putting off, or something that feels maybe just a little bit out of reach, right? So ask yourself, what's a goal I really want but haven't achieved yet? Is there some relationship I want to improve? Is there an area of life where I feel a little bit stuck? Is there something I've been meaning to do but keep avoiding, but it's important to me? So choose something that feels realistic but bold. And while you're maybe downloading that worksheet, we'll give you a couple minutes to do that. And if you don't want to download the worksheet, a simple piece of paper or notebook will work just as well. Worksheet's there just to guide you. So I'll give you a moment to just kind of think of an aspiration and get a little bit settled, and then we can kind of continue. In the meantime, if there are any more questions, happy to take them. I'm gonna time this for about a minute, but just give me a thumbs up or something, some kind of sign if once you sort of have an aspiration in mind. You don't have to fill anything out on the form yet. We're going to do that kind of in steps.
May I ask,
Please, yes.
um, should I be thinking of my aspiration in terms of the reconnecting, trying to figure out, at least in the 1 minute we have.
Yeah, something just something that's meaningful. Like, so if you haven't
Okay.
really gone through kind
Yeah.
of the work on the reconnection yet,
Okay.
but you have something that's kind of just, feels really important, then, that's where I would focus.
Okay.
Please repaste the link to the spreadsheet. Are you talking about the form, the development goals, Mildred? Yeah, okay. April, if you're able to repaste. Okay, and as you're getting that settled, I'm still going to give you a couple of minutes to kind of define this, but this is a screenshot of the form. So what just invite you to sort of write your goal in this kind of a format. Where are you now? What's your current reality? what does success look like to you? So where do you want to be? And by when? What's a reasonable but maybe slightly bold timeline? And then maybe the most important part down there is, why does this matter to me and to others? So what's the value in you achieving this aspirational goal to yourself and to other people? So I'll give you an example. We'll go back to Forrest. You heard his backstory. So this might be how he thinks about filling this form out. So Forrest has this aspiration to write a book, right? He might have other aspirations, but this one seems important to him at the moment. So he describes his current state. He doesn't have a book yet. His desired outcome, he wants to write it. He sets a deadline. But more importantly, he connects that goal to the value he wants to create for himself and others and for the planet. So again, your turn. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to just kind of work through this. Don't worry about getting it perfect. It can be refined later. This is just to give you a bit of a taste of what this activity is about. And of course, as you're doing it, if any questions arise, feel free to ask. Feels like I should have had a little journaling music queued up here to play for y'all. Are you doing this? Give you just another minute, and then we'll continue to the next piece. All right. Is everybody feeling like they reasonably have something marked? Seeing some nods. I'm not seeing any dissent, so we'll move on a little bit. Okay, great. So you have an aspirational goal. The next step is to think about some developmental goals. And I'll describe these a little bit more because it's a little bit different than what you might think, right? So we're going to talk about the mindsets and habits that could help or hinder your progress. So it's not just about doing, but it's getting about the thoughts and the habits that might be getting in the way. So I would bet Forrest has a pretty good idea of the things he needs to do to write a book. He needs to write a draft. He needs to get a publisher. So he probably has that big to-do list. Yet something has been holding him back, right? He's had this goal for a while, but for some reason he's not doing it. So now we switch to the mindset a little bit. So what might be getting in his way? What habits might be getting in his way? So we're shifting here from doing to being, right? And he might ask himself, what do I need to be more? What do I need to be less in order to achieve this goal? So you see there how Forrest answered, right? So Forrest struggles with doubt. He questions whether anyone will really care what he writes. He's feeling a little bit overwhelmed, frankly, by bad news about the environment. And he's wondering to himself, is change even possible? Like, why bother? So these thoughts can keep him from writing. So he identifies the mindset shifts that he needs to get out of that cycle, right? He needs to be more focused and less distracted. He needs to be more confident, less unsure, more hopeful and less cynical. And you notice these pairs are opposites, right? He can't embody both at the same time. He can't be both focused and distracted, confident and unsure. So, and there could be more of these for him. There could be more be mores, more be lesses, but these are the top three that seem to be getting in his way. So again, your turn now. Do this for yourself, for your aspirational goal. What would be the be more characteristics or attributes that you would need in order to achieve that aspirational goal? So take a couple minutes, jot them down, and we'll give you a couple minutes to do this, and I'll check in on you. Is it not necessary to be smart? Not necessarily in this case, Byron. Eventually, he's going to have to do some things that are, sort of smart goals. And you can even set up the initial part of this as a smart goal, right? He's got a goal he wants to achieve. He has a date he wants to do it by. He might put in some, what does success look like? So he could encompass some of those elements. But the first step is like, how do I shift my thinking to, achieve the goal that I want to achieve?
Paul,
Yes. Christy?
so I'm looking at the be more
Mm-hmm.
and um with as you talked about SMART goals, sometimes they say don't double up on the things. Um but I feel as though two things in particular feel very much within the same wheelhouse.
Okay.
I feel focused and disciplined. And I feel
Yeah.
like those are the same wheelhouse. Would it be okay if I put those together? Or should I
Uh,
still?
I would maybe list them separately because they might have some nuances that you'll sort of
Hmm.
uncover as you go through the process.
Okay, thanks.
And again, think of what the opposite is for that too. So is the opposite for focus there distracted? Is it disciplined? Is it, I don't know, is it something else, right? If it feels like it's the same, you might merge them, but it might be just fun to explore. Is there some nuances there as well? It's just another 30 seconds or so. Again, doesn't need to be perfect now. You can come back and refine. As long as you have a couple, you get sort of a sense of the activity. All right, let's move on to the next piece. And this comes back down to the value again. You know the value of your aspirational goal. So this one's just kind of taking it down, kind of like another level, right? Um, so just think for these developmental goals, why does this matter to you and to others? And what will change for you if you achieve it? So you can use Forrest's example here as a guide. You see he's given us a little bit of thought, right? About what this could mean, and like that last statement, publishing the book could actually launch additional opportunities to get my message out, right? It might have a broader influence. Maybe I'll be on interviews and do podcasts and things like that. So once he starts connecting with the value, he starts expanding the possibilities that he might be able to do beyond just writing the book. So again, just take a couple minutes and just jot down some notes for yourself for your aspirational goal. All right. Well, hopefully everybody has at least kind of an outline of their aspirational goal and the value that would achieve for you. Um, so nice work on reflection. So great, you have all this kind of written down now. So where do we go from here, right? Um, so here's the big idea, right? Again, being different requires thinking differently. So one of the tools that I use is this VQ profile assessment, which uses the Hartman value profile to identify your best and not so best ways of thinking. So I'm going to break this down for you a little bit. So imagine your thinking is like a tree. Okay. What shows above the surface are your actions and results. And all that comes from what's really happening beneath the surface, right? Which is your thoughts. And most of us run on autopilot about 85 to 95% of the time, which is very efficient, but not always helpful, right? Sometimes we get just caught in our old patterns. So we call that our B game. The good news is you also have powerful ways of thinking, which is your A game. And you can access that more often when you learn how, right? So the VQ profile, I'm going to blow that image up on the right-hand side here in a minute, just so you can get a better look. But what it identifies for you is your cognitive assets, which is your best thinking, and then your cognitive biases, which could be things that are tripping you up. And then once you become aware of your best ways of thinking, we can develop those habits that shift us from our B game to our A game more often. So this isn't about fixing anything, but it's about helping you lead yourself better by thinking more clearly and intentionally, right? So you'll become more aware when you're stuck in that, oh, that's that old pattern again. How do I interrupt that and step into my B game? So let me blow up I guess the other thing I'd say too is it's what's interesting is you defined your B more and your B lesses, right? So even though that's kind of tied to a specific aspirational goal, chances are those same ways of thinking are showing up for you in other aspects of your life as well, right? So as you're working on that one aspirational goal, you're probably also improving other things that you're trying to accomplish by just showing up a bit differently. So let's look at a blow up of this assessment. So what the assessment measures, there's actually 36 different sort of ways of thinking that show up on this assessment. So the top half is really your perspectives on how you see the world. So it's more outward focused. And the bottom half is more your self view. How do you see yourself? Right. So anything that shows up on this report as 100%, right, centered in the middle there, in green is an asset that represents your best ways of thinking. Anything to the left or the right is a bias, and it could potentially be a liability. So the further away from the center we are on either end, it means we have less clarity on that perspective. So we can train ourselves to shift from, our less best ways of thinking to our best ways of thinking just by becoming more aware of when we're in those patterns. And the way we do that too is, again, we started out with questions. This just continues the questions, right? So when you notice you are in a bias, you can ask yourself some centering questions to get you sort of in your asset, right? So the questions, again, interrupt your thinking and starts building pathways to a new habit. So with that, let me just pause there before I'm just going to do a little bit of a wrap up, but any questions on what we just covered there? How could I find more details about VQ? Yeah, stay tuned. Ron, I can give you more details on the VQ. You actually have a chance to take a sample report if you would like. All right, so here's what we covered today. We did an overview of the inner compass coaching model. We tasted an activity on aspiration. We talked about how let me untie my tongue, how mindset shifts can support your goals, and why your thinking matters and how it can evolve. And again, this isn't magic, but with reflection, support, and tools like StrengthsFinder, like VQ Profile, change is possible. And once you learn the process, you can apply it really to any goal that matters to you. So we began with a poem about dark, right? About sweet darkness. So again, we're going to close with one that's about light and about new beginnings. So once again, I invite you to close your eyes if you like and just listen. This is it's called For a New Beginning from John O'Donohue. In out of the way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you are ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness growing inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight, when your courage kindled, and out you stepped onto new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning that is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you'll be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. Okay, you can open your eyes up if they're closed. And I just want to again thank you for showing up today for yourself, for your future. And I do see a question, Candace.
Yes. My question is normally I've heard that there should be a mind shift first and then the habits will follow. But is it possible or even helpful at any point to start practicing the habits, even if your mind shift has not happened as yet?
Um, like from a scientific perspective, I'm not sure how to answer that. I don't have that background. I would say that there's probably more, you're probably more likely to succeed if that mind, I can't say that word today. If that mindset shift happens first, so in other words, you're aware of the desire to change, and then you form new habits, right, to enact that change.
Well, even just that you said, like even a slip of the tongue, sometimes that's what the mind is at that point, right? And then then because I'm thinking maybe if you condition yourself to do something, then sometimes you believe it. Because they
Yeah,
say fake it until you make it or fake it until you become it. So that's what I was kind of wondering about because I know it's usually mindset first, but I'm just wondering if you had someone who does not have the ability to do it yet. And if you're like, hey, just go through the motions, if that would work from your perspective.
I mean, I think it could. I think it has potential. Yeah, I think my preference would be the other way, like, kind of recognize, the need for change and then develop the, kind of the habits to make that change. But I think it could work the other way too. Repeat both poets. Yes. The first one was David White, Whyte. And the second was John O'Donohue. Any other questions? I think I'm going to turn it over to April to talk about promotions and helping to close us out a bit.
Um, Thank you for this. It's it's funny because I guess most of us are coaches, um, but doing this process is like it's a coaching session for us again. Um, just with a slightly different um taking into consideration mindsets, which I haven't done before. It's really helpful, especially that segment on the opposite mindset. It forced me to think about where I am versus where I'd like to be. And I haven't done that in a while. So
Yeah,
that was really helpful as well. Thank you.
good. Yeah, I'm glad you appreciated that. I think it's, this model works for maybe a certain type of person, right? Like we started out with the people that are feeling sort of like disengaged or lost or disconnected or, maybe just questioning things. So I find this is helpful for those kind of people just to kind of take stock, reground a little bit and reconnect with what's important to them, who they are as a person, and maybe what they want to pursue.
Yes, and I see that someone asked for the names of both poems, and Candace put those in there. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. It is a
Yeah,
new beginning in sweet darkness,
it's
right?
For a New Beginning, I think is the
For a
current,
new beginning.
yeah, the
Okay.
full title for that one.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you so much for the participation so far. It's been fun watching you on the journey that the presentation has taken us on. And so now I'm going to be launching the poll now. for questions. Hopefully you can all see the poll now. So of course, if you're interested in the InterCompass program or the VQ profile assessment, just indicate that you want follow up from the presenter, and you can get clarity about that with Paul. Paul will work with you on that to figure out what you're looking for.
Yeah, and the VQ profile assessment, what that is, what you'll receive from that is really just that screen I showed that had like 36 different perspectives. You'll get an intro report that has 3 of those, but it'll give you a taste of what it's all about. And then, of course, if you want to, explore your full report, you'll have the option to do that as a follow-on. But you'll have a chance to take the assessment if you want to see what it's about, and you'll get like your 3. You get like one asset and a couple of different not so good ways of thinking to play with.
So I see the question, is the presentation finished? Technically, the presentation portion is complete. There is an opportunity for anyone to share sort of your takeaways, what was valuable from the information that was presented, what did you appreciate, what did you learn, both as a way to help Paul understand where the value was for you as attendees, and also to help you anchor anything that you learned and want to take away with you. And then if there's any other questions, we can engage those as well. So I have like 8 out of 18 people have completed the poll. So again, just invite you to do that if you're able. And Christy has a question.
Yeah, a lot of questions.
All right, well, questions.
That's great. We love questions.
So the very first thing that you started the presentation with was speaking about the Gallup poll results. And could you give me that citation? Because I haven't looked up any of those things in a while. Was that the 2024?
It's the 2025 report, but it's from the year 2024. If that makes sense. So the data is the research in 2024, but the report was published in 2025. I can, Christy, if you want to drop your email or something in the chat, or if you want to ping me separately, I can actually send you the report if you'd like.
And the other thing that I wanted to ask, well, let me give somebody else a chance if they have a question.
I'm going to stop the presentation here so I can see everybody better. Okay.
Okay, well, if nobody else has a question, I'll just jump
You're
on
right.
back in then. I think one of the things that I wanted a clearer understanding of, I don't know if this is something that if we sign up for coaching, we get a better sense of, or if this is something you can share here. The connection between the Ikigai model and the realignment. Because it talks about reconnect and then realign.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm not fully clear on, maybe it's just that we didn't have a lot of time to sort of delve into the reconnect part of it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I'm clear on the process there and how we pull that into the realignment.
Into the realignment. Yeah. So reconnect is about sort of just like grounding in your identity, if you will, your authentic self. And then like an aspiration will likely be an expression of your purpose or your essence, right? So once you kind of define that intersection, and like you have this, kind of burning desire for whatever that is for you, right? You might have many aspirations, but if they're a reflection or an expression of your purpose, they're going to have more juice to them, if you will, right? So they're gonna be more meaningful to you. So that's the connection. We try to help people just connect with, who they are authentically first, and then what aspirations kind of arise out of that. And then we go
Mm.
through that, process of defining that aspiration, looking at their thinking perspectives and then changing habits. Is that helpful?
It is. It is. It's pretty much what we had to do for that. That pick the opposites part of that assessment of where you think you are versus, or well, I guess with the Ikigai model, it's where you are versus where you aspire to be. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
I was just going to
Yeah.
make a quick comment. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the presentation, and I felt like the structure of the activity was extremely helpful, and definitely will allow a client to kind of get more structured about, thinking and direction and, being grounded. I do a lot of sort of mindset work and positive psychology, and a lot of my work is strengths based. And so I found it, to be an extremely helpful tool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the comments. And your name sounds very familiar to me for some reason, so I don't know if we've met somewhere before.
Any other questions or takeaways that anyone would like to share with Paul? Now is your opportunity. I see a lot of gratitude and appreciation for in the chat, just to say thank you and lovely presentation. But I also want to congratulate you on a job well done, Paul. So I'm celebrating you for doing a very nice job, and this is a great tool. I love it. Yeah, I've had the opportunity to do the little mini VQ assessment, and it's very, very interesting. It's really cool to look at. So I encourage you all, if you're interested, to take that opportunity. Yep, I see hand claps. I see hand claps. So
Well, there's
very
nothing else.
good.
Thank you all again for your attention, your presence, your questions. It's been a lovely time, and I'm sure we could all appreciate having a little bit of time back. So,
A little extra time back. All right. Yes, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day or evening or wherever you are.
Okay. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.